I love to cook at home, and having good kitchenware makes all the difference in the world. Not only does good equipment make prep and cooking easier, but it makes it more enjoyable. This is why I am a huge fan of Made in Cookware. Their wide range of cookware, from pots and pans to knives and flatware and even glassware, are designed to be professional quality for right in your home. I myself have over a dozen pieces from Made in, including pots, pans, pizza steel, knives, and a beer glass. Yeah, beer glassware. They have that all. Take your cooking to the next level by upgrading your cookware by going to unitedwedrink.com/madein. That's MADEIN. Find out why pros like Grant Achatz, Sean Brock, Nancy Silverton, and Eric Repair trust Made In. Go to unitedwedrink.com/madein and upgrade your kitchen and cooking today. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, coworkers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that will pop up on Google when you type in "World's Worst Podcast." My name is Mike Urevich, and I'm okay. Eagles lost the Super Bowl, but I'm okay. And with us, as always, is a guy who had no feelings towards the Super Bowl, Kevin Abbott.
A guy who did not watch the Super Bowl, who did not know who won the Super Bowl until the next day, and my only thought was, "Oh, Mike, I'm so sad for you." My only interest in the game at all was the interest in your enjoyment of it.
Our city has lost in 3 major sports championship games in the last 5 months.
What was the other one? What was the third? No baseball.
MLS. They were in the MLS Cup and they lost to the Galaxy.
Does that count?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were going to say hockey or basketball because
it was the same day that they lost the clinching game of the World Series too. So they were also the first city to ever lose 2 championships in the same day.
Quick question. Are the 76ers or the Flyers any good this year? Do they have the potential of to lose? Do you have the potential to lose 4 major sports championships in what we consider the big 4 sports?
The Sixers have a good chance of losing a championship. Yeah.
Okay. Not the Flyers?
No, they're fucking terrible. And they should be worse, but they're not tanking. So, yay. They still have a chance of making the last seed of the playoffs and then getting murdered by the Bruins. Not something that you should be striving for. They should be tanking. They should be trying to get the number 1 pick in the draft, who is he's thought to be one of those generational players who will go number 1 and can just go in and be a big impact player right away.
Okay, this is fascinating to me. You still follow sports, obviously very attentively.
Not basketball. I don't really pay attention to the NBA.
But still, you're following football. You're following baseball. I know you follow baseball, so you know enough about what's going on with hockey. Yeah. How do you do it? Because I was a massive sports fan for my entire life. Around the time that I had my one child, I basically bowed out of everything but baseball. Baseball is the only thing I follow. How do you have the time to keep up on all this stuff?
Just reading articles as I work or as I don't know. I don't get a chance to watch very much. I don't think I have watched a single Flyers game this year. Maybe one. But I mean, I don't get to watch as much baseball because we live in the South Florida market, so it's whatever is on network TV. And I got to watch some Eagles this year because they were good, and they played some nationally televised games. But I don't know. I don't know how I managed to do it. I just try to read articles and keep up with box scores whenever I can. Pitchers and catchers reported yesterday.
Absolutely. That's the sport I still follow is baseball. So, yeah, I'm very impressed, Mike. And you're doing it with twins. So even more kudos to you.
Kudos to me. You're cheersing me virtually. What are you drinking there, Kevin? Looks like a torpedo.
I'm drinking a goddamn torpedo, and you have to say that because this is a goddamn good beer. And I just every time I have one, I'm like, I'm drinking a goddamn torpedo. This is delicious.
I have seen the label approval for the rebranding where it says "goddamn torpedo" on it.
I'm surprised they got away with it. And I also have some cheap, Costco Canadian whiskey that I have here as well.
Fun thing. I don't think that I recognized it until a couple years ago, but apparently it's been on Sierra Nevada's labels for quite a while. Have you noticed the part where it says family owned, operated, and argued over?
Yes. I'm looking at it right now.
That.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah, love that. And great beer. I got to get the new variety pack that has, I think it's like cryo torpedo or something like that in it.
I haven't seen that.
Something like that. They I think have created like a couple torpedo variants. I'm having a Das Pils, one of our Pilsners over at Copper Point. This is actually a slightly different recipe. The Pilsner malt that we normally use for this beer is out of stock and is going to be out of stock for the foreseeable future. So we switched up our Pilsner malt for the base of this beer, which is 99% of the malt in the beer. And it's different malt, and I like it so much more. And I don't know for the life of me why this is. I'm sure that I will get a text message from friend of the show, Tim Johnson, after I say this, and he'll explain to me in detail and science why. But the beer's now even more clear than it used to be, and I don't know why.
What were you using and what did you switch to?
We were using Bortmalt's German Pilsner, and we are now using Irex Pilsner malt. I haven't compared any of the specs on it, but it's just incredible. I thought that our Pilsner was pretty damn clear to begin with, and now this one, we didn't change anything about finings or filtering. Same practice for those, but now it's just like yellow water, how clear it is.
Cool.
You can't see it because I'm just drinking right out of the can, but
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, believe me.
It's possible you're lying, but I'm going to give you this one.
Would I lie to you, Kevin?
Yes,
I would, but I would not to you, the listener of the podcast, because I cherish you. I also have a little bit of Jameson, because why not? All right. Kevin, you wanted to kind of continue of sorts the conversation from last week where we talked about things that we enjoy that are adjacent to the beer industry but not beer, and continue this conversation in a way. So why don't you take it away and kind of explain what we're going to talk about?
Well, we spent last week giving our non-expert opinion about something that we were passionate about or had some kind of experience with. We have some kind of knowledge of whiskey because we've been a consumer, but we've never worked in that industry. And we spent a lot of time on this show, at least in the time that I've been on it, really picking our bones with customer review websites, talking about Untappd specifically, and how you have people with absolutely no expertise and sometimes with zero knowledge of the industry that they are critiquing. And we've raked it over the coals. We've talked about it a lot. And we don't want to just talk about that particularly, but the idea of non-experts giving feedback to people who are expert in the industry, we have this everywhere. We have this in the TV that we enjoy, the movies we watch, and sports. We were talking about sports earlier. The amount of people that are hating the off-season moves for the Detroit Tigers is spectacular. I mean, it's just getting raked over the coals every day, and none of those people have ever spent one day as a GM. But yet they're going to sit there and complain and critique. And I understand it, right, as a fan of the team and seeing that. But the idea of someone that has a little bit of knowledge, just enough to be dangerous, that can really shoot down, when we're talking about our industry, shoot down beers, concepts, ideas, kill a brand. There's some power in that. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this... I don't recall if you mentioned it, but Yelp, just bloggers in general. These are things, like, I was one of those people. Like, this is something that I almost feel like is as old as time, being the armchair quarterback or something like that with everything, like you said. But in our industry, in beverage and food, like the hospitality industry, there seems to be a lot of that, and a lot of people who believe, rightly or wrongly, that opinion carries weight with it, and that brands and companies should make decisions based off of the critiques and the opinions of said person. This, I feel like, could be slightly confused with just listening to your audience, because, like, your audience is going to tell you what they want and what they don't want, what's selling and what's not selling in your portfolio, and it's very important to listen to that, to your general audience, where it's difficult to not listen to these loud individuals who are rating your beers on Untappd, or making a beer blog entry that says that it fucking sucks, or something along those lines. And it's a tight wire act sometimes on navigating through that stuff, and being someone who works in the marketing side of things, and trying to stay away from looking at that stuff because I don't want to get myself worked up, but also trying to keep my bosses away from it so that they don't get worked up over that stuff, and we start making decisions that are brash and are counterintuitive to what we are trying to do.
Well, we've always had, I think what you talk about is listening to your customer. We've had that forever. As long as there's been commerce, as long as there's been a free market, you listen to your customers, they'll vote with their dollars, right? Someone has been speaking to the manager ever since the first restaurant charged money for the first plate of food, right? We there's always been a way to give feedback to a business, and to listen to the customers to try to do better, make that person in particular more happy. But also the old adage, if one person complains, 10 people had the same problem, but only one person spoke up. So as far as giving constructive criticism and feedback, I've always been very comfortable with that. I worked in the restaurant industry for 15 years before I even got into beer and things of that nature. There were definitely people who complained in a mean, brash way. People that complained about things that they ordered a dish that says this is spicy and then got mad that it was spicy, right? That's always going to happen. But for the most part, I always found most criticisms to be well thought, people coming from a kind place. They didn't really want anything for free. They just wanted to bring something to attention or have their experience be a little bit better. What I find more and more is that because these platforms are available to everyone, they are driving patterns of business in a way that they just never have before. And especially with something like Yelp, where businesses get very poor reviews, or, a couple reviews can weight something down. But even not even looking at the overall rating, if the last rating that someone put on your brewery or your restaurant is really, really negative, that can really, really mess somebody up as far as wanting to go there. And I think the power of those negative reviews has never been stronger. And the voices of the people that may not really like your style of beer or your style of food, or might not get what you're trying to do. We have gotten poor reviews because we were a brewery. I want to say that again because it's crazy. My brewery got a bad review because we were a brewery, in the fact that we didn't serve liquor and that we didn't have our own kitchen. That would be like going to a dry cleaner and getting mad that they were not a grocery store. They're different things, and there's no reason to rate that way. But you have those people that don't really understand what you're doing, your concept, what have you, and it can really hold weight.
Yeah, that makes me think of just this afternoon when I was at the brewery doing work, sitting in my booth that I normally sit at, and a couple came in and just like stood at the front door and were like, "Do we just seat ourselves?" And a bartender who had like one person sitting at the bar was like, "Yeah, you wherever you'd like." And he made then a little joke like, "Except there, don't sit there." He's like, "I'm just kidding. You can sit wherever you want." And then like after like a minute, the gentleman got up. He's like, "Are you going to bring us menus?" He's like, "Oh, there's the beer list is on the tables, and then we got the chalkboard here." He's like, "No, the food." He's like, "Oh, we don't have food. We're just a brewery. We're not a restaurant." And he's like, "Oh, I thought you were a restaurant. Well, we're leaving." And it's like, okay.
And if that person then went on Yelp and gave you 1 star, that is basically what I've experienced before. If they just made a mistake, it's one thing.
But going back to the Yelp thing, I mean, that fucking company, I don't know how if shit has changed over there, and feel free to correct me if it has, because I avoid conversations with them like the plague. And they would come to you and be like, "Hey, we want to work on sponsoring or ads or whatnot." Like, you buy some fucking premium account and they talk about how like it'll make your site, your place pop up higher in rankings, and it will make your rating better because it'll push down the bad reviews. It's like, you want me to pay to make the weighted rating of my, like, fuck you. And then of course, if you say that, then somehow all of a sudden all of the bad reviews pop to the top of your listing because they're fucking assholes.
Well, it's like the mob. It's, hey, you got a nice brewery over here. Shame if something happened to it, right? If you got to pay me protection money, all of a sudden your reviews are going to be better.
And the thing about this, that site in particular, is you can't remove your stuff from there if you want to. Like, it's looked at as like you're a business, you're open, we rank businesses, and you don't have a right to take your business's name and information off of our website. And I get it, but I also find it such a crazy thing that I can't tell you stop using my company's name on your website, and they're like, no. I don't know if there's been any actual legal battle over something like that, because probably no one has the money to really fight a big company like that. But I could talk about Yelp for a long time, and it's funny because I almost look at them as worse than Untappd. No, I don't almost. They are worse than Untappd.
It's a really interesting thing. I had never really thought about it that way before, is the fact that they're kind of profiting off through advertising and things, off the fact that you're in every other restaurant, bar, freaking dry cleaning service, everything is rateable on Yelp, and you can't opt out. That's an interesting thing that I hadn't thought about before. To shift gears, obviously we're talking about the platform itself, but the people that are going and rating beers on Untappd and rating bars and breweries and restaurants on Yelp, many of them are doing it in it's gamification, right? They want to get as many ratings as possible. They want to earn a fictional badge that they then can share with their Facebook friends. Talking about what they're getting out of it. And there are people that love it and really enjoy it. There are people that are very generous with their reviews. There are some people that only review things they like, and they don't review the things they don't like. The one thing that I find interesting, and this might have always been this way, or it might be something that is relatively new, is this concept of punishment. I see a lot of reviews that go up that seem like they're trying to tell me something that they don't like. And even if I respond in kind and say, oh, that was a mistake, or we're going to fix that, or this is what, I respond to anyone that rates us on Yelp, for instance. I do a personal response to them, whether it's a good one or a bad one. I say, thank you very much for your review. Thank you for saying this, this, and this. If it's a negative review, I try to fix it. Even if I think they're being unreasonable, I do my best to try to fix it. And there does come off a feeling in a small percentage of these that, because for most people, when I say something, they'll say thank you very much. Sometimes they'll change the review. Sometimes they'll take it down. Then sometimes they'll say, I'm going to come back in and review again because I want to give you another chance, or something like that. But there's a small percentage of people that they seem to want to make you mad, or make you feel how unhappy they were. And nothing you can do is going to satisfy them. And it does very much feel like, look, I get a chance to give you 1 star, and you have to kind of own that from now on. There are no mistakes. Your bartender was mean to me, and there is absolutely nothing you or them could ever say or ever do to ever make that right. And I just find that position to be really bizarre.
It is. And I dealt with this just this past weekend. And I know when to walk away from that, because I can see it coming. We were at a beer fest, and we ran out of beer at a point during the beer fest, and someone later that evening goes, "You left the beer fest early." And said, "We ran out of beer around this time. Really sorry if you didn't have a chance to try our beer. Our tap room is only X miles away. Feel free to come in and try some beer sometime." And the response was, "I paid to go to the beer fest to have your beer. Now you want me to pay to come to your tap room?" I was like, there's not going to be any pleasing this person. They're digging for something for free, most likely, or they just want to project how upset they are that they didn't get to try someone. They're probably drunk, and I'm not going to engage with that. And it's like, you know what? I apologized. If we were a reason that you wanted to be there, you should have come over to our table sooner than right near the end of the festival. But yeah, if I see that tone and the implication of money spent, it's like, you're digging for something here now, and I'm not playing that game. There are going to be times where it's justified, and I can tell that it's justified. But going to a beer fest, getting drunk, missing a beer, and complaining about it, and getting an apology and being like, "Hey, we're not that far away. Come visit us sometime." If that's not satisfactory to you, then I'm not replying to you anymore.
It's interesting because when you have, Let me back up. I have opinions on a lot of things. We talked about this throughout the show. I mentioned, I think last week, I thought that Thor: Love and Thunder was hot garbage. I hated that movie. I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think it was interesting. Other than the fact that Christian Bale was bananas off the wall good, everything else about that movie was terrible, in my opinion. I have not gone on Rotten Tomatoes and reviewed that movie. I also haven't. What's that?
It could have fooled me with the way that you bring that movie up. Like,
well, what I'm because it's a good example. I love the MCU.
But you have brought this up many times on this show.
Right. And this,
it's like your shtick now.
Right. Okay. But what I'm saying, but this is what I'm trying to get at. I have not gone to rate that movie. I have not written a blog about it. I have a platform. We go out. I think we have, 7 listeners now. Is that where we're up to, or is it 8?
6.5.
6.5.
Someone lost an arm.
So the limited people that listen to this know my opinions on that movie. It's almost like we have a large friend group and we're having a conversation at a dinner party. That's the way I look at this podcast. But I do have an opinion, and I'm willing to say it. I am not an expert in film or cinema, but I have an opinion, and I'm willing to say what that opinion is. So I understand why someone wants to tell me when there is something wrong, when they don't want something, when they don't like something. But the other aspect of it is that there is an expectation from a lot of people, and this is on Untappd, this is on any beer reviewing or restaurant reviewing website that's out there, that the expectation is that if I had an experience, this must be the only experience there is, because I'm the only person that's ever gone there, and there's no way anyone else is experiencing this differently. If Joel, who disagrees with me vehemently on Love and Thunder and really loved that movie, if he was on the show still together, I'm not going to scream and yell as he's giving his conflicting opinion and saying why he loved that movie, because he has a right to his opinion as well.
He'll scream and yell at you, though.
Well, Joel's not really a yeller, so to speak. He'll just look at me in a very condescending manner and I'll shrivel up and die. But the other thing that I see a lot is this has happened twice now, where someone has been very, very down on our food truck that we have at our brewery. Now, this is not our food truck. I use that term as ours, but it is a different company that we work as a permanent partner with. People saying how it's the worst food they've ever had. It was terrible. It was this, it was that. These things are subjective. We all know that. But the ferocity in which these people were 2 people over, by the way, 7 years of working with this company and rave reviews otherwise. 2 people would not have been happy with anything but me saying, okay, I'm kicking them out. They will never be in front of our business ever again. That's the only thing that they wanted to hear. And they could not conceive of the fact that they didn't like their French fries, but maybe somebody else did. They got a bad customer service experience, but maybe everybody doesn't. And one person doubled down in a way that was, well, you don't know how much this is ruining your business, and if you want to be an idiot and not see this, what I'm telling you, I mean, it was, I've never experienced somebody I never experienced someone that was that adamant in their opinion and could not see any other possibility other than what they experienced. And that is another thing. It's that kind of like only looking at something from your own lens and not conceiving the possibility that anybody else would look at it differently. When I was talking about not liking apple whiskey last week, I think multiple times we said, well, they must have market research. They must be selling it. I don't particularly enjoy it. And I hope that we don't have nothing but apple whiskeys out there in 6 months to a year. But more power to them if that's what they're making their money off of. Right?
Yeah. I think, and I'm not meaning this as like, this is my final point, but it kind of does all just boil down to that the internet has allowed a person who comes up with an idea for a website to pretty much tell people, hey, you can role play as an expert at X. Have you ever wanted to be a restaurant reviewer for the LA Times or the New York Post or whatever? Well, now you can over at Yelp.com. Just log on, go to a restaurant and write your review and blah, blah, blah. You want to be a sommelier of beer? Here's Untappd. Go on and rate the beer. Like, we have created... And I'm at fault for this because I'm a former blogger. Like, WordPress made it super fucking easy for me to create a blog, and made me feel like people are gonna care about what I say about Brooklyn Summer Ale. No one fucking. I mean, actually, some people did, but which is fucking scary. But I just. We've done this to ourselves, really, and this is how we're dealing with it. I used to write Yelp reviews. I'm not trying to fucking. I've deleted my account. All of my reviews are gone. But I got review of the day a couple times because I wrote like funny reviews of things, and I got voted like review of the day for like South Florida or Palm Beach County. I don't remember what it was, but like after a time, I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I like, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm like, if I was being paid to write stuff like that, that's one thing. Like, I'm making a living off of doing this. But the fact that I'm just fucking Mike Urevich sitting in my fucking office in my house or whatever, probably back in those days, just sitting at a kitchen table, like, no one fucking should care what I think. This stuff should be more of, I've said this before, it should be like a journaling tool. It should be for you to take notes on your own personal journeys through food, through drink, and be able to reflect on that. Share it with friends if you want to. But like, the fact that we have made it seem like we are then this powerful voice in the beverage community, the food community, whatnot, is fucking silly. And I don't think that we can put the genie back in the bottle.
Well, you've expertly recapped the entire plot of the episode of South Park, You're Not Yelping, which
really
covers the... You've never seen it?
No.
Oh,
I'm not a big South Park fan. I see stuff here and there.
It is one of the most brilliant satirical works of our generation. I don't know if it's on Paramount Plus or what it's on. I highly recommend you find it. That, the show about speaking to the dead with John Edwards, and this episode on Scientology, that trifecta covers so much of the human experience. So it is brilliant. It is funny. It says everything that you need to say about that culture. So definitely had to put that in there. We're talking about the fact that, and we're considering ourselves, at least in some avenue, as experts in the field of beer. And in the lifetime of United We Drink, the hosts have only been people who worked in the industry for some period of time, that had and also experiences in multiple levels and different things in the industry. Whether or not you agree with our opinions or think that our collective experience makes us experts, that's up for debate. It's not lost on me that we are voicing our opinions and saying that some people don't have valid opinions, especially since Mike and I did a professional wrestling podcast for many years. And I don't know if you realize this, but neither of us were ever professional wrestlers. I am not actually Macho Man Randy Savage, that I faked my own death and now I've reinvented myself. So I want to make sure we call it the hypocrisy of, complaining about people reviewing and giving their opinion while also giving our opinions.
I'm an expert on fake experts.
There you go. But that really leads me into the idea of, do you think, I think it was Joel was on an episode, one of the episodes, it might have even been on the fundraising thing we did, but he's mentioned, like, should you have to take a test if you are going on Untappd, should you have to take a rudimentary 25 question quiz, and you can rate anything you want, but your reviews won't show up until you get a 98 out of 98% or something like that. Is there anything? Should there be a barrier to entry before your review of something? And I might be overstating this, so please forgive me. But before your review of something could help to tank a business, because it's not one review, it's many. But still, I mean, go with me there.
Here's an idea: Next Glass, the parent company of Untappd, and Beer Advocate, and Osner, and Ollie, and all of these fucking beer related things. They're going to buy Cicerone. They're going to buy that company that is the beer, the sommelier of beer certification thing. And they should then implement that all new accounts on Untappd and legacy accounts, no grandfathering in, you have to be a certified beer server in order to rate. You can check in, but in order to rate, you have to be at least certified beer server. You got to pay the 60 something bucks online and pass that course in order to rate. Or just, they can team up with them and do that. But there's my idea right there. The $100 idea. Actually, $1,000. Pay me $1,000, you two, Cicerone and Next Glass, $500 each.
But we were talking before, and when you were kind of alluding to without saying it, is that, and this is now we're talking bigger stuff. Now we're talking fake news. We're talking Facebook and social media. But there used to be gatekeepers. There used to be people that would vet a story, get sources, and decide what to say was true and what was not true. The gatekeepers are gone, because now information can be shared so easily. The gatekeepers, as you said about being a restaurant reviewer, there has to be some kind of expertise, some kind of history to get a job working for a major paper and reviewing restaurants. That's all gone. But one of the things that's interesting, and I mentioned this with Rotten Tomatoes earlier, Rotten Tomatoes has a critic score and the People's or whatever it says. I'm not that familiar with the site. But there is a delineation, and they do take into account. And I can imagine that I was a big fan of, say, Wes Anderson films growing up. I can imagine Wes Anderson films, many of them, like The Life Aquatic, not getting great reviews from the general population, but getting a 98% fresh by the critics. And if you really care about movies, and you look at that, and you were to pick your movies that you were going to see based on that, you might go, well, the public hates it, but these critics, I like everything. All the ones that are rated fresh by the critics I like, so I'm going to lean towards that. Why can't we have that? Why can't we have in the beer industry, why can't a certain amount of raters and people that have some expertise rate a beer so that my beer, my Sierra Nevada Torpedo, my Sierra Nevada Torpedo, which probably has a 3.5, I'm guessing, 3.4, because the general public doesn't know how good it is. But if a bunch of experts rated it, it'd have a 4.3. And now that could help to influence those scores a little bit from the general public, because they know that this is a high quality beer and not just a run-of-the-mill IPA. What do you think about that, Mike?
I think that's kind of interesting. There's something about Rotten Tomatoes that I've never really understood, because I've never done the research on it. Like when I'm like looking up a movie on like Wikipedia, there tends to be like the information about the Rotten Tomatoes score somewhere on the ratings and reviews down towards the bottom, and it's always like it's rated like 90% out of 7 reviews. And I'm like, 7 reviews? Like, there's got to be more reviews than 7 for this movie on there. But I guess, like, it only aggregates based off of certain reviewers? Or I don't know. Maybe, do you know? Or I'm going to be, I'm just left not knowing? Is that what you're saying here?
First of all, you can use Google. And if you want to find this out, I'm sure you can do it.
There's other stuff that I want to know about.
You've got to check the box scores. I get it, but don't go asking me questions about the internet, Mike. You know that this is not my strong suit.
Okay, I'm gonna look up Thor: Love and Thunder right now.
So you go right ahead. I may be validated. We'll see.
I want to see what it says on there.
But that speaks also, Mike, to something that's really important in the fact that not only when you have we grew up with Siskel and Ebert, right? Mm-hmm. We grew up with gatekeepers that even were popular, that were well known. To speak to an author, Charles Bukowski was my favorite author in my 20s, and anytime Charles Bukowski mentioned another author, I knew I had to go read that author, because if the person that I love to read was inspired by that other person, I knew that I was going to like it, right? So that's a long way to say is that you learn to trust a reviewer, you learn to trust opinions. You and I have similar tastes in something like pro wrestling. I know if you like something, I may like it more than just some random Joe Schmo on the street saying that they like something, because I know you. I know your preferences. I've learned them over time. And that's the thing we miss when I'm taking the advice of random person number 4 on a reviewing site that I don't know what they know. I don't know what they like. I don't know if they have any understanding of this at all. But I certainly do make decisions sometimes on let me go back. If Allie and I, my wife and I, are out of town and we're looking at restaurants and there's 3 restaurants we're trying to pick from, I sometimes will go with a higher Yelp score. I don't have any other information to go by, and I will use it. And I'm using the preferences of people who I don't know at all. And it's a little weird.
All right. So Thor: Love and Thunder. I see here. So they have the 2 scores. They have the tomato meter, which is based off of actual critic scores and critic reviews. And then they have audience score that is based off of users on the website. And so Love and Thunder's tomato meter is a 64% based off of 433 critical reviews. I would say that's better than average. And the audience score is 77%. So higher based off of the actual fans. The critic consensus amongst critics is, in some ways, Love and Thunder feels like Ragnarok Redux, but overall, it offers enough fast-paced fun to make this a worthy addition to the MCU. And the audience consensus is, even though Love and Thunder's constant silliness makes it hard to invest in the more serious sides of the story, there's still plenty here to enjoy. Which, that beginning part sounds like exactly what your problem was.
Right. And this is the thing. I do not want to get to a point, and I don't want to encourage, because part of what we're talking about is like who's allowed to have to do reviews. Like we don't have the right to tell someone that they can't review our business. We don't have the right to tell somebody, as much as I will. Our new Waypoint IPA. And our new Waypoint IPA is not a run-of-the-mill IPA. It is in the category, I think, extremely well done. Tons of flavor, an interesting beer, well balanced. I'm ridiculously proud of that beer. And I have seen reviews of that beer that say, another IPA, 2 out of 5.
Those are probably the people who are like, I don't like IPAs.
But the important thing is, let me say this real quick. The important thing is they have a right to say that, and they have a right to think that, and they have a right to never buy that beer again and tell all their friends. I just not sure if they have a right to influence more people. Yes,
yeah, they have every right to feel what they feel and think what they think, and to never buy that beer again. They don't, I think, have the right to rate it in a way that affects the way that beer sells to a market and to impact the way other people think towards it in a professional way. Like, they are not a professional reviewer. They are very probably open about the things that they don't like, and they still try the things that they don't like, and they still rate the things that they don't like poorly. Like, that's a thing that I learned in my time of beer blogging, is that I probably shouldn't review beers that I have a just negative inclination towards, like just beer styles. Like, I'm not the biggest Belgian beer fan, so I probably shouldn't be reviewing Belgian beers because they don't tend to be my thing. I wasn't at that time able to differentiate between personal opinion and just overall, like, is this beer to style and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not judging the beer. I was going off of what I think. And I shouldn't be reviewing beers that I don't like in general. And that's a fucking stupid thing that people that's the joke about fucking Untappd, is don't like IPAs. One, like, fuck you. Like, like, no one made you have that beer. Like, you chose to have that beer. And then you're just going to fucking shit all over it because you paid fucking $6 for it. Fuck you. I do want to go to, speaking of IPAs, I'm sidetracking big time fucking here. But
right.
I will say this, and I'm going to blow some fucking smoke up your fucking ass. Waypoint is one of the most impressive IPAs that I've had in a long time. It is a terrible name, and it's a blah-looking label, but it is a hell of a beer. Like, I can think of, over the last few years, probably about 3 to 4 IPAs that really made me be like, whoa. 2 or 3 of them are from New Belgium, and then Waypoint's a fucking delicious beer. Like, when you brought me over bottles of that a few months ago, I was like, this is damn good. Like, I took some into work and shared it with the team, and we were all like really impressed by that. And then the cans that you had for your son's birthday party, I thought that batch was even better. And
we're still working on it.
I'm like, this beer is fucking impressive because it's somewhere in between, like, your hazy and your West Coast. Like, there's a little bit of bitterness, but there's so much tropical hop character going on. There's a nice body to it. There's good carbonation to it. It's not sweet, but it works with some of those hop characters and those tropical flavors to make it kind of perceive as a tiny bit sweet. It's fantastic. I just want to say that, and I want you and that brewery to be proud of that beer. That, you know, that I can be sometimes a tough cookie to crack, but that's a very good beer, and you guys should be proud of it.
Well, Mike, I really appreciate that, because some people might think, oh, Mike and Kevin have been friends for a very long time, so Mike probably loves everything Barrel Amongst does. That is not true. I oftentimes feel like Mike may be the number one critic when I bring a beer to him, because I feel like he's always looking for, first of all, I like constructive feedback, so there's that. But also, you know, I worry when I bring beers to you, Mike, that you're not going to enjoy them. So the fact that you're saying that, it means the world to me. I'm smiling on the inside when we're talking about that. So thanks.
You guys should put that in cans all the time, not fucking bottles, but cans.
Well, that's a very
I get
complicated thing.
I know, but I'm just saying, for my own fact, I would rather have a 4-pack of Tall Boys than a 6-pack of 12-ounce bottles.
Yeah, but you know, these are the things that we are talking about, right? The expectations of the customer. You know, you just made a comment about what you think that we should be doing, like many customers will. That is not feasible at all that we can't make money off of, that we can't do volume wise. And we hear these kind of things constantly. And to bring this back around and just kind of drive home this point even further, or to what I'm sure some people will think is just beating a dead horse, is I think there is a way to give constructive criticism. I think there is a way to give constructive feedback. I am like you. At this point in my life, I never say anything about something that I don't like. I only talk about the things I like. I do still have a Yelp account. I only ever give reviews of great experiences because I want to help out that business in any way that I can. And I want to, I want to prop them up. If I ever would rate anything on Untappd, it's only beers that I really, really enjoy. And some people would say, well, I am a speaker of truth and I need to make sure no one experiences, it's a punishment thing again, no one experiences this bad beer again, or no one has this bad experience. Take for a second to realize that you had one experience and you're one person. And for a millennia, we've had popular opinion has closed restaurants and breweries down when they haven't been successful in making good beer. Because our businesses all require on repeat business. We can't, if you think we're bad, we can't dupe everybody. Because eventually everyone decides that they've tried it once and you made terrible beer, they're not going to come back to it. So that will eventually play out in the wash. You don't need to be an avenger and decide I've got to preach the gospel to close this business down. And of course, everyone has the right to utilize these websites to their heart's content. But there is a process in place for survival of the fittest, for the brewing industry, for every industry. It's there. It will always be there, whether we have online rating places or not.
Yeah, that's kind of going back to what I was saying before, is like, we can't put the genie back in the bottle at this point in time. It's been a thing that people have known and expected of the internet for far too long, that we can't just take their credentials away from them anymore. They don't have any, but they think that they do, and we can't take them away from them. They're freedoms, if you will. It's just a thing that, like, I'm kind of glad that my bosses don't care about those sites as much as other people who I have worked with and for in the past. Like, they look at the Facebook ratings or reviews that come in, and sometimes the Google ones, but like, they don't really pay much attention to Untappd. They don't really pay much attention to Yelp, and neither do I, because like, I'm trying to run my side of things in the way that I would run my own business. And I don't give a fuck about Yelp. I don't really give a fuck about Untappd. Like, I only log on to Untappd to add new beers, and every once in a while to merge beers when someone makes fucking duplicates that are misspelled. Like, that's the only times that I'm ever on there. I never go through ratings or read ratings because I don't care. My bosses don't really seem to care, so I'm not going to care either. I know that you can utilize that as tools for your marketing, but I just listen to what actual people say in our tap room. I'll listen to what people come to me and tell me, like, because I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm fucking online and available. People know me and know who I work for, and they come and tell me things when they see things about my beer, try my beers out in the market, and I'm pleased that people come and talk to me about it. So I have an okay understanding about what's going on in the market with our beer, but I'm glad that I'm getting better at distancing myself from the toxic places that infest the hospitality industry, but I know it's not easy.
And for me, I really want to know, as a business owner and as someone who works directly with every comment that comes in, I'm the one that gets it. I want to know if you have a bad experience. I want to know if you don't like one of our beers. I do. Even if you hate Belgian beer and you, for whatever disturbed reason, decide to buy our Wizard White Ale and you really don't like it, I want you to tell me. I'm happy to hear you tell me why that beer's bad. But send it to the info page on my website. Send it to me directly. Unless you're trying to punish me, unless you're trying to make my business worse, if you actually want to give constructive criticism, if you actually have an opinion, I want to hear it, and please send it to me. I just find that most of the periphery around that, the sites really focus on the fact of trying to, for what they seem like doing, is speaking truth to power in some odd way. But if your goal is to make a business better, if your goal is to bring an issue to light, just like there are all these sites, there's ample places to go to any one of our businesses. Like, someone could reach out to you on Instagram, Facebook, they can send an email. We have never been more accessible as businesses. And that's what I would encourage most people to do if they have a real problem. If you have a problem that you want to be solved, that's the forum to go on.
And so herein lies another issue. And that is big-headedness. You are luckily not one of those people that you're willing to take criticism, constructive criticism, and people reaching out with potential issues, complaints, and who want to do it privately, want to come to you and talk to you directly. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people in this industry who just ignore that because they see it as it's a private thing. I can just ignore it and it will go away, or they just don't care. I have had beers that I know were flawed, and I don't know the breweries specifically. Like, I don't know anyone. They're not local, but they're smallish, and I felt like this is something like, look at the date code. It's not out of code. Like, there's something wrong with this beer. I'm going to reach out and provide them with information. Like, I had X beer at this place. Here is a picture of the date code on the bottom of the can, because I luckily had a can, and it had issues with X, Y, and Z. And I just thought that I'd let you know about that. I'm not looking for anything, and to get nothing, not even a thank you or anything. It's just like, they don't fucking care. And this is actually, and along with that, this was something that I saw talked about on Twitter a few days ago, is talking to peers about these issues. Like, someone said, how do you approach telling another brewery, if you're a brewery employee, telling another brewery about issues in their beers? And I pretty much said, unless they are a good friend and someone who I know will listen to me and who will know that I'm coming from a place of love and concern and not just trying to shoot down a beer, I don't do it anymore. Because the last time that I really tried to tell someone that I thought that there was a problem with a beer, I got some bullshit fucking response that had nothing to do with the defect in the beer, and it was like, oh, fuck you. Like, that was how I felt like they responded to me, and that's how I responded to their response. Like, when I say, hey, I got a 4-pack of your cans and every single one of them had diacetyl in it, and to go, we're looking into getting a DO meter. That has nothing to fucking do with diacetyl issues. Like, fuck you.
But maybe also they don't even realize where diacetyl comes from, and that's part of the problematic aspects of our industry. And Mike, you're bringing up a great point. And the fact is that there are some bad breweries out there, and some people may think I have one of them, right? So I have to be comfortable in that. Everyone has an opinion on these things, but there's bad beer on the shelves. We talk about it all the time. Joel was famous for talking about, the exploding cans on the shelves, and tons of people doing canning that shouldn't be canning and not having the wherewithal or the ability to actually do testing. Forums that allow people to say what's going on can be viewed in a very positive light and in the exact situations that you're talking about, because you tried to reach out to them and give them constructive criticism and feedback, and they did not listen to it at all. And you would be saying, if you went on Untappd and said, this is bad beer, you'd be justified in saying that. And you'd be justified in saying, well, I tried to do the right thing. I tried to reach out to them, but I want to warn people, don't go drink this beer. So it's complex. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing. I don't want it to come off as we're just bashing these sites. There can be some value to them. I'm biased as a business owner. I'm biased as a brewer because it's so important to my business. And as we've talked about before, I lose out on revenue because my beer is rated at 3.98 instead of a 4 on Untappd. Thousands and thousands of dollars in revenue because 7 people gave it a 1 out of 5 because they don't like IPAs. And I lose thousands of dollars of revenue. If I had one wish, I would want everybody to know what they're actually doing, what this actually means in the industry, what this actually means for a restaurant. I think if more people were conscious of how important those reviews are, that flippant thing they said, I think they would be a little more thoughtful in doing what they're doing.
The brewery should be allowed to rate the raters, kind of like Lyft and Uber, how the drivers can rate the passengers. Yeah. Let us do it. Come on, next class. Give it to us.
Several good ideas. Merging with Cicerones, having a expert rating aspect of it, and now rating the raters. That we're doing the work here, Mike.
We know someone who works over there. Let's send this episode to Dustin and be like, go to the upper management and tell them that this shit needs to get done.
And I recently made an ESB, which is his favorite style of beer, and he always talked about wanting to make an ESB. I'll send him a growler of ESB and this list of things, and maybe we'll get it done.
Oh, you're gonna send it in a growler at that too?
I mean, it's not canned or bottled, Mike. I can't can everything. Okay.
Wait, you made a draft only ESB?
Yeah.
And it's gonna be carved at a lower number?
What do you mean?
Like, you hate low carb. Like, ESBs are traditionally supposed to be at a lower carb level. I know you don't like anything under a 4.
No, it's carved at a normal carb level for a normal beer. It might not meet specs. Mike, do me a favor. Don't rate this beer on Untappd because it's not going to meet your specifications.
Let me ask you this. What are you serving it in?
The same snifter we serve everything in.
Where's your Nonic pints? Where's a pint glass?
We don't have them, Mike. Why is this turning into a critique of my brewery again? Listen, you said nice things about Waypoint. Let's leave it at that.
Okay. No, I think it's funny. Before recording, I did not think that we had enough steam to pull off a full episode of this. And we did.
I think we can do 2 more on this because we are very passionate about this concept.
Yeah, and people like to hear fucking middle-aged men bitch and moan. Middle-aged white men bitch and moan. Oh, wait, maybe not. No. Uh, um, anything else that you want to touch on that, or you want to head
No,
on into last calls?
I think we covered it, and because we talk about this stuff all the time, we'll obviously be bringing this up probably next week. But still,
you'll hear more about Thor: Love and Thunder next week.
I promise I will not mention Thor: Love and Thunder for the next 2 episodes. Let's see if I can hold myself to that.
This has to be like a drinking game type of thing. Anytime Kevin brings up Thor: Love and Thunder, you got to finish your drink.
Well, you get shorthand for things, right? You get things that work as examples, and they become cultural touchstones. This is one of them for me.
All right. Let's head on into last calls, point in time, where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to voice our opinion on whatever it is that we want. Uninterrupted, unopposed, unobjected. Kevin, what would you like to say for your last call?
You know, it's funny. We started talking about sports and baseball and sports in general, I should say, but baseball came up in the open of the show. And my last call is the fact that pitchers and catchers did report on Monday, and baseball season is upon us. I have shed most of my sports love. I grew up as playing sports. I wasn't very good, but I played sports. It was a big part of my personality, and most of them have kind of died away. Like I mentioned earlier, I did not watch the Splendid Bowl. I'm not all that interested in it, but baseball remains something that I just love, and I don't really even care if the Tigers are good. They never are, at least in the last 6 years. I just love baseball. I love watching a baseball game. I love listening to a baseball game. And so much of this is also just my growing up, going to Tiger Stadium, my dad taking me down to that beautiful ballpark, which unfortunately is not here anymore. It's so nostalgic, and I still get that same feeling thinking about rosters and watching a game, and I can smell a baseball stadium through the screen. I absolutely adore it. It's not rational. There's a lot of better things that I could be doing with my time than following the Tigers religiously. But it's just joy. It's just happiness. And I have so many great memories, and I love baseball cards. I just love it. So I am very happy that baseball season is back. I'm happy that I have a nice distraction and something that I get to invest in other than like a personal thing I can invest in for several months. And I'm hoping for a good season for the Tigers, but just a lot of just base enjoyment.
Nice. I don't want to talk about the Super Bowl specifically. I don't want to talk about the Eagles specifically. I just want to talk about how fun the last 5 months have been as a Philadelphia sports fan, and watching from a distance a city that I love, with lots of prejudice. Like, I was born there, I was raised there. It just happenstance that I am a Philadelphia fan, and just seeing the joy and excitement that these sports teams have brought to people in the city and brought people together and to celebrate, have fun, and just the chants and the music and the intensity that has vibrated through that city and somehow reached down to Florida to me has just made me proud of where I am from. And I know that it is a tribalism, weird, silly thing that is completely by chance of where we're born, but you can still be proud of where you're from and still admit that there's lots of issues that go on in that city, and things that I follow and I would love to see resolved for those that live in the area. But God damn it, you people make me fucking proud that I am a Philadelphia sports fan, in win, in loss. The passion, the intensity, the love for the city, the love for those around you. I fucking love it, and just Philly never fucking change. In that aspect, clean up the trash, and get corruption out of our fucking government. But there we go. I love you.
Was Philly the city that threw snowballs at Santa Claus?
Let's stop fucking bringing that up. It was 50 years ago.
Was it 50 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
Oh man, we're getting old, Mike. We're getting so old.
There's a guy who works for like a local sports blog, and he does like man on the street segments, and he was at like some bar for an Eagles game around Christmas time, and there was a guy dressed up as Santa. He's like, come on, let's talk about this. Can we put the whole thing behind us by this point in time? And he's like, yeah. Like, and they're all in agreement. And at the end of it, he's like, so Bird's going to the Super Bowl? And the Santa guy's like, yeah, I can't say that. He goes, I'm gonna go throw some fucking snowballs at you now. But it's a fucking thing. I hate the fucking that keeps on coming back.
Well, I just think it's funny that you mentioned how old it is. I've been playing music to Jad from my, when I was in my formative years, my teens and my early 20s, and I realized that it is the generational equivalent of my dad playing doo-wop music to me growing up, and which I thought was so old. And music from the late 90s is ancient. It's oh my god, it's wild. It's absolutely wild
to hear stuff from the 90s on like the classic rock stations. It is fucking weird, but it is also funny that like doo-wop is kind of cool and fun, like, and good music. And like I've over the last maybe 5 or 6 years like really grown a love for new wave, like and you would have asked like 10 years ago, Mike, like about new wave, like fuck that shit.
It's even funnier because I still love stuff that from my dad's generation, which is now like, I don't know, like wax cylinder, like equivalent of me growing up listening to opera or something. I don't know. It's very, very odd. We could talk about this forever, but I just thought that was really funny that you said that Santa Claus got beamed by snowballs 50 years ago. So it's odd.
It's
how
probably
time
longer
passes.
than that. Like I might be. I realized that I am 40 now. I feel like it had to have been longer ago than 10 years before I was born, but I'm not going to look that shit up. I have the potential right in front of me, but I'm not going to.
You're not going to. No, you got to have principles, Mike. Stand on your principles. Don't use Google. Because Google does reviews, and we don't appreciate those reviews. Bring it back, call back, and we're out.
Kevin, you want to plug anything?
We have an anniversary party coming up. It is going to be on March 25th. We are going to be releasing a really good triple, which is a little more of a new world spin on a triple than our traditional Three Fates triple. I don't want to call it a hoppy triple, but it's going to have some American hop character, but it won't be super bitter. It won't be over the top. I'm really looking forward to it. I've tasted the beer in tank. It tastes really, really good. I'm really proud of the beer. And it's going to be our 8th anniversary, 8 years of Barrel of Monks. So if you are in the South Florida area, please come out. We're going to have a couple guest drafts over there. We're going to have live music. It's going to be a good time. Lots of good beer.
Awesome. I just now looked down at my shirt because I'm wearing our 7th anniversary shirt from last year and realizing that our 8th anniversary is coming up in May. I just want to real quick, last episode I mentioned about my photography and stuff. If you're into photography and you like my photography, I'm going to be doing some giveaways of prints over the next few weeks. By the time this comes out, I'm going to be doing 4 giveaways on 4 different prints. of photos of mine. So go and follow me at Mike Loves Beer on Instagram and Twitter to be able to find out more information on those and enter to potentially win a free picture, which would, if you're into that, that's a cool thing to potentially get. Other than that, check out our social for the podcast at United We Drink on Twitter, at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We are available on all of the major podcast streaming services such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever fine podcasts are found. If you would like to support the show financially, go to our website, unitedwedrink.com, and check out the Brands We Love pages. If you go to any of those links on there, and make a purchase, we get a little bit of kickback that helps go towards paying for our hosting. And we also have shirts, buttons, stickers, and totes, and all of that fun stuff at our web store, unitedwedrink.com/store. Other than that, we'll be back here in a couple of weeks for a brand new episode. For Kevin, I'm Mike. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
No, try again.